What's up guys? Today we're going to take a listen to the Synergy Deliverance module. This is the Series 2 from Steve Fryette, and I have the guys at Zzounds to thank for sending me this unit to try out and take it on stage, see what it can do, and then bring it back here in the studio and then talk to you guys about it. Now obviously by the name, this unit comes from Steve Fryette. He's kind of like the big brain from VHT amplification, then Fryette amplification, and now one of the big brains at Synergy. And he has developed this Deliverance version. This is the Series 2 module, and I'm also going to be running it through his amazing power station here. This is the original 50-watt version. So during the intro playing there, hopefully you got a good idea of what all sounds this thing can get, but there's a lot more to it than just like the high gain and the clean cleans. It's got a lot of in between, really good sounds in between, and it's all thanks to the dual gain controls that each channel has. All right, I'm going to put a camera closer up to this because there's a very limited amount of space that these modules have to work with, both in the controls and the labels. So I'm going to have a camera pointed closer so you can actually see what all is going on the front of this module. Okay, so this is obviously a 2-channel module, and each one has 2 different gain controls, and it doesn't operate the way that a super lead does. And that was kind of my first misconception going into this and thinking, oh, well, the super lead has sort of a bright gain and a darker gain, and that's probably what this is. Very different. It also has your typical bass middle treble. That's a global control for both channels. It has a presence and depth control on there that you can toggle to be either always on, or you can have it only on the lead channel or completely out of the circuit. In addition to that, each channel has a bright switch and a more switch, which basically gives you more gain or less gain, as the label implies. All right, let's take a listen to channel 1, and we're gonna hear some of the low gain sounds, some of the clean sounds, and some of the higher gain sounds that it can get, which it does have a very broad range of gain that you can get from it. And I believe that one or both of the guys from Opeth actually have been using this module for some of their crunchier sounds. So let's go ahead and get started here. Got to be very delicate here with the levels on this clean because it can get very loud very fast. I think that these two channels are identical, and if they're not, they're very, very similar to each other. All right, I'm gonna dial in sort of a lowish gain crunch sound and then a higher gain, kind of a heavy rock sound on the red channel. All right, now this is about how I had this thing dialed in at the last show that I used this for, and I'll talk about that in the post-gig report later on in the video. Here we go. All right, and here's kind of how I had the second channel dialed in for the higher gain stuff. right, let's take a quick listen to how the EQ affects the sound. I'm kind of going to sweep through all of the controls and you'll be able to hear what all they do, what the more or less does, and what the bright switch does, sort of just playing the same kind of thing here. Very powerful treble control. Actually, there's still a decent amount of bite with it all the way down. If we engage the bright, and if we engage the global presence and depth, this sounds great. All right, back to where we were. The mid-range added a little bit of cut in there also. And also looking at the levels, it added some additional output in there too. Yeah, got a lot louder. I mean, it sounds just great everywhere, but these EQ controls are extremely, extremely powerful. All right, bright. All right, we're gonna check out the presence and depth now. Turn them to noon. Big volume jump with that presence there. It stays clean and clear even with it just dimed out. I don't know how well it translates into the recording, but hearing from the cab in the closet in there, I could feel like that extra just low end oomph coming out of this thing. Actually, give it some more here. Take the reverb out. It's just so much low end and it's clean. That's the impressive thing. It's very clean. All right, back this back down. The thing that I like about this, and I think this will probably come in handy depending on if you're using a brighter cabinet or a darker cabinet or a brighter guitar or a darker guitar, the bright control, the treble control, and the presence control all affect a different type of part. They affect a different part of the frequency. And I think having control over the top end in 3 different ways really lets you fine tune how the top end of this all reacts with your equipment, with your cabinet, your speakers and your guitar and your pickups and all that stuff. And I'm just kind of now finding this out because I never really messed with all 3 of them right around the same time as each other. All right, time for the post-gig report. So I actually ran this and the 2CP module at our last gig because I wanted to hear what both of those things sounded like on stage. And they were awesome. They sounded and performed amazingly well and very different sounding, but I didn't run them with the power station. I actually ran them into the return of the Mark 7, and it had the EQ, the slider, the graphic slider EQ disabled on the Mark 7 so that all of the tone shaping came from the actual modules themselves. What this also let me do was run the Mark 7 direct out into my aux stomp box and then into the quad cortex for the effects and the signal splitting and routing and all that good stuff. And everything just worked really, really well. As you heard earlier, I was able to dial in a nice low gain crunch sound that cleaned up really well. The Lizzie Hale Explorer, it cleans up so much better and easier with its pickups than this guitar does. And also because it has separate volume controls for each pickup, I was able to set up one pickup like for higher. Like I always have the neck pickup rolled back almost completely clean and then the bridge pickup all the way, you know, full output so that I can quickly just toggle the pickup selector to go from a pretty clean sound to, you know, all the gain instantly, and it kind of avoids the need for channel switching. And in the 2CP video that I'll record here in a little bit, I actually did run that one with a very, very squeaky clean sound, as opposed to a kind of a mild crunch sound that I dialed up on this one. So one other thing I want to discuss is that if you're like me and you've been looking at these Synergy modules online, and you might have this preconceived notion that there's a certain sameness to the way that they sound. Like maybe they're just like tweaks here and there, and someone slaps their amp company label on them and gets their money. But I could not have been more wrong about that. These sound wildly different from one another, and beautiful in their own ways, and quirks in their own ways. And I will be very specific in some of the quirks of that 2CP module, considering that I actually have owned 2 of the Mesa Studio preamps, which, I mean, it's almost identical in sound. But we'll get into that in that video. But for this, I have not played a Deliverance in probably 17 or 18 years. I was in a shop in Nashville, and I played Deliverance. It was the Series 1 60 watt module, 60 watt amp, and had a Hagstrom Swede guitar. And it was honestly one of the best, like, moderate high gain sounds that I was able to get from a very low volume. They really wouldn't let me turn it up too loud in the store, but it was hands down one of the best low volume bedroom sound, volume high gain sounds that I was able to get from an amp in any store. Like most amps, they need to be cranked up, but man, that 60 watt Deliverance just sounded just awesome. But the Series 1, it wasn't a channel changing amp. I don't think there was an effects loop, and it was a little bit too constrained for what I was looking for at the time. So I passed on it, but kind of looking back on it, probably wouldn't have been a bad pickup. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it, man, hit that like button and give it some love. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, help my channel grow and get these videos out there to new viewers just like yourself. And again, a big shout out to the guys at Zzounds for sending me this unit to try out for a little while and to really kind of put it through its paces and give you guys my honest feedback on what I think about this thing. Look forward to the video for the 2CP module, where I will be going more in depth with sort of the Mesa-ish stuff with that. And I'm also going to let you guys hear what it sounds like running into the Mark 7, and we might do a little switcheroo here and there, going back and forth between that and what the 2C mode on the Mark 7 sounds like. All right, that's going to wrap this video up. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.